I think this was a great conference because it brought a lot of young people who are studying and those who are professionals together, and they were discussing the African agenda on their own terms. But what is critical is that most of them made a decision to say they are going to do something about their own country. We are in the process now of developing and crafting a new leadership in Africa. And so it was quite a great occasion because the young people from the private sector, from academia, from journalism, from all over England, and also from the continent, were sharing instruments and global best practice in terms of how to make a difference, how to become a player in Africa. In particular, in terms of the economy, we are now pushing the prosperity agenda in Africa. A very irrelevant question to this conference, but this conference is bigger than Zimbabwe. We're trying to say, why don't we work together across the African continent? The future of Zimbabwe is not Zimbabwe, it's SADC. The future of Ghana is not Ghana, it's ECOWAS. The future of all of Africa is around continental integration. So we're emphasizing on how African countries can work together. In terms of Zimbabwe, I think we're making progress in terms of creating conditions for freeness and fairness of our elections. And also we're making progress in terms of crafting a national vision, a national brand, and a national constitution. Meaning, once we have grand canons that are agreeable across the political divide, it won't matter who becomes president because they'll pursue the same destination. In terms of the succession within ZANU, that's their own internal matter. We must be concerned about building a Zimbabwe that is above ZANU, building a Zimbabwe that is above MDC. Once we do that, then it is inconsequential who is running Zimbabwe. Sanctions have played a role in affecting the economic development of our country. Sanctions have affected the economic prosperity of our people. But we've also made mistakes ourselves. We can't just blame sanctions. We can blame leadership. We can blame lack of focus. We can blame lack of strategy. So we're not in the business of passing the buck. We want to also take full responsibility for our own circumstances. So the University of Zimbabwe has been part of that. So we're trying to say, why don't we work with the private sector, the diaspora, the civic society, and the government, so that we unlock resources, which resources can then revitalize the University of Zimbabwe. We are very confident that we'll be able to do that. On Monday, we're announcing the findings from our gala. We had a very successful dinner where President Mbeki was the guest of honor. And this Monday, I'm having a press conference to announce what we've gotten. We have so many pledges, so many indications of support, but what we're doing is to quantify them so we can announce the number. So we're very confident. It was a very high-profile event, and we hope that we'll be able to achieve the revitalization of the University of Zimbabwe. But beyond that, we're saying the University of Zimbabwe is a microcosmos of the larger issues. If we can fix UZ, we're going to fix National University of Science and Technology in Bulawayo. We're going to fix our high schools. We're going to fix our primary schools. We're pushing this notion that Africans must start giving back to their own communities. Africans must start giving back to their own institutions. We are sick and tired of being receivers of donations and aid from other people. Why don't we take charge of our own lives? Very important. The starting point is to say, let us understand our geology so that we can quantify the assets underground. But more importantly, we can also put a number, put a value, and say, here we have diamonds worth $4 billion. Here we have platinum worth $14 billion. So that when we engage investors, we engage them with knowledge of the value of the asset. What has been criminal in Africa across the board is that we give investors a claim for free. We don't know the value of the claim. Indeed, they get the claim and go and list in Australia, list in Canada, list in some foreign country, and unlock value from the unmined asset. But to be able to do that, we need an exploration company that understands the work, does the geology, quantify and put value to the asset so that we can unlock the value to benefit our people. Part two, we must not be selling raw platinum, raw diamonds, raw gold. Let us process our diamonds in Zimbabwe. Let us cut our diamonds in Zimbabwe. Let us have a processing plant for platinum so that we can produce catalytic converters in Zimbabwe, sell them to South Africa, sell them to England, sell them to America, moving up the value chain. The same applies to diamonds. Right now, as we speak, India is making 60,000 jobs out of our diamonds. Why don't we partner with them? They make 20,000 jobs, we make 40,000 jobs. We cut our diamonds, we produce jewelry in Zimbabwe and sell it to the world. That, however, beneficiation and value addition will require 4 new things: new cash, new technology, new skills, and a new mindset. Meaning, the engineer must have the confidence that he can do value addition. The consumer must feel confident that made in Harare is okay, made in Soweto is okay, made in Accra is okay, buying African-produced items. And the people must be given new skills. The current engineer knows how to extract coal. You must train them so they can process platinum, they can produce catalytic converters. It will also require new money. But then, if we control the asset underground, that could be a source of the money, and also investors can come in with the cash. New technology is required. And also, you need a critical mass to be able to do all these things. But where there's a will, there's a way. So we want to make sure the natural resources in Africa are benefiting Africa, but more importantly, we want to move up the value chain. And also trade, you talk about trade, we need transparency. We need good governance in the way we sell our diamonds. So there has to be proper trading of the diamonds so that there are no leakages. And the people of Zimbabwe, the people of Botswana, the people of South Africa benefit from their natural resources through transparent ways of trading in these minerals. Outside the conversation around natural resources, success under globalization is going to be a function of regional integration. The only viable unit of analysis is the region. The only viable unit of analysis is the continent. So even outside the conversation around diamonds, South Africa won't make it as South Africa, they're going to make it as SADC. Ghana won't make it as Ghana, they're going to make it as ECOWAS. But more directly, yes, once you integrate and are working together, it is easier to manage the pilfering. It is easier to manage the trade so that there's transparency and people are accountable for the platinum, they're accountable for the diamonds. But the emphasis is on regional attractiveness. The emphasis is on regional competitiveness. 1 billion Africans makes more sense to China, to India, than 50 million South Africans. Okay, I think the starting point is very few people are deciding to lead. So let's address the first problem first. Many people think leaders are born. Many people think leaders are created by Oxford. We're saying no to that formulation. Mandela was not sophisticated in terms of his education. He was not an outstanding orator or intellect. Gandhi was an average lawyer. But they took a decision to become a leader. Now Gandhi is an institution. Mandela is an icon. So the starting point is to motivate these young people to say, leadership is about deciding to lead. So, and many young people are staying away from politics. They're going to academia, they're going to business. So my motivation is to emphasize that no guts, no glory. When you take a plunge, when you decide to lead, you might fail. But it's okay to fail. You must take risks if you're going to be a superstar. So I want to make sure I do that encouragement. Once I've done that, then we can discuss, okay, those who decide to lead can also become problematic. They have too much power. Then we talk about mitigation. We talk about systems. We talk about institutions. Africa needs good and strong institutions, not strong individuals. So if we craft our institutions, we'll be able to mitigate and manage the egomaniac. More importantly, let's build a value system that says the people come first. Servant leadership. Service, not master leadership. Why don't you build a culture that says term limits. You come for 10 years, you go away. You win an election, you rule. You lose an election, you go away. Civilian authority is supreme. The army subordinates itself to the civilian authority. But all these are values. And values, unfortunately, cannot be legislated. Constitutionalism, the tradition, the culture, the behavior of respecting the Constitution, you can't legislate that. Respect for human rights, you can't legislate that. So we must build a value system that makes sure that people don't become dictators. And values require civic education, social mobilization, leading by example. These are the kinds of things we can do to mitigate against the overbearance and the misbehavior by those who decide to lead. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity, but I want to emphasize that Africans must become masters of their own destiny. Yes, we've had a rough history, but I'm not interested in people who are blaming others, the West, the East, the Europeans, the Americans. Life was never meant to be fair. Step up to the plate and become a master of your own destiny. Gandhi says, be the change you seek to see in the world. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Let's go. Right.